It's your boy Luke, back again for another PGA DFS video, this time for our value picks for this week's Mayakoba Championship. Gonna just call it the Mayakoba Championship. It's really the Worldwide Technology Championship at Mayakoba, but that is a whole mouthful, so Mayakoba Championship it is. What we're going to do in this video is we're going to cover our favorite value plays, $7,500 and below for Draftkings GPP contest. These are going to be some of the guys you could use to save some salary for your lineups that not only have a very good chance of making a cut this week, but also have some top end upside as well. So without any more delay, let's hop right into it with our first value play. I'm going to start it off with Emiliano Grillo, somebody who was featured in my winning GPP lineup from last year. I'm willing to go back to him because he's such a good course fit for El Camaleon. So first off, he costs $7,500, which is great to see, but comes in as the 21st ranked golfer in the field in terms of a course fit. So a relatively good value there at $7,500. Obviously well above expected value there. In terms of a course fit, what makes him so good is first and foremost, he's extremely accurate off the tee. While he does have some length, he's not going to have to use the driver here. He's going to be hitting a lot of irons off of the tee, which means he should have one of the highest fairway percentages of anyone in the field. On top of that, he's the best iron player in this field. The only one that can contend with him would be Justin Thomas. And if we take a look at the advanced metrics, Grillo has him beat. So somebody who should be able to lean into that approach play this week, set himself up for plenty of birdie opportunities. He's also shown to be somebody who can handle windy conditions. Last year when it got windy at the championship, he was able to take it to 6 under par when the scoring average was really close to even. So really like him this time around. I think it's a fair price tag at $7,500. If we take a look at the recent form, it hasn't been the best. He's missed some cuts. He's made a few cuts and not really done anything with it, but we've seen some ceiling rounds. He shot 8 under on Sunday a few tournaments ago. Also has had a few 6, 7 under rounds sprinkled in from time to time. So if he's able to string 1 or 2 of those together, keep it together with the kind of course fit that he is, I think this is a good track for him to come back to some of the form we saw last year. Next up, we've got Henrik Norlander at $7,000. Not the best course fit in terms of his metrics. He's the 42nd ranked golfer in the field, but what's really getting me excited is the recent form. He's been great of late. He has a few top 10 finishes, has made a bunch of cuts coming into this golf tournament, and overall, when we think of his type of game, he is the type of game that should translate well to this golf course. First thing we think of with Norlander, he's not one of the longer hitters on the PGA Tour, averages 288 yards per drive, and that's not going to be a problem here at El Camaleon. Like we've already mentioned, this is one of the shorter tracks on the PGA Tour at just over 7,000 yards, so as a result, not going to be penalized as much as he typically is. Norlander also tends to be one of the more accurate drivers of the ball, which is going to be rewarded this week. There are plenty of hazards off the tee here at El Camaleon. If you guys haven't already seen my course breakdown, different type of hazards too. You have some wooded areas, you have some mangrove forests, you have seaside cliffs, pretty much everything being thrown at these players. If you're hitting offline, more often than not, you're not in rough, you're in a hazard of some type, whether it's a sand trap or one of the aforementioned hazards from before. So with that accuracy, he's been good with his approach play as well. He hasn't been quite as prolific as somebody like a Grillo, clearly, but somebody who's been a consistent approach player ever since he's gone onto the PGA Tour. So I like the recent form. I like the fact that he's a very accurate player. And if there's any part of his game that we can point to as a weakness, it's typically the putting. He's right around average in terms of his shots gained metrics. And the beauty of El Camaleon is that we have these resort-style greens. Not only are they about 7,000 square foot on average, making them some of the biggest greens we see from week to week on the tour, they're also some of the flattest greens. These are meant for resort guests, meant for me and you, not for these PGA Tour pros. So they have a lot of subtle breaks on them. Actually, not subtle. They have a lot of easy to read breaks that don't have very much slope to them, which makes some of the worst putters in the world tend to do a lot better. Next up, we have Kirk at $6,700. I really like the price tag here. I don't necessarily understand why he's priced here, especially when we consider some of the people that are priced around him. In terms of a course fit, he's the 36th ranked golfer in the field. He's not going to be blowing you away by any means. In terms of recent form as well, not going to blow you away with the 45th ranking. But when we think about Kirk's game, it's also just like Henrik Norlander going to translate very well here. Just like Norlander, one of the shorter hitters on the PGA Tour, averaging just over 291 yards per drive. Also somebody who does it with his accuracy, tends to be very accurate, has a very good par 4 scoring average. And here at El Camaleon, par 4 scoring average is something I'm weighing a little bit extra this week. We see far less eagles at this golf course than any other golf course on tour. We also see a ton of scoring opportunities onto these par fours. There tend to be these scoring opportunities. The par threes here tend to have some teeth. They're usually along the seaside. You deal with some heavy winds there as well. And they are also the most heavily bunkered holes. So the par fours are really where you make your hay. And Chris Kirk tends to be a specialist at those. Another thing I really like about Chris Kirk's game is also his approach play. So just like Grillo, just like Norlander, this is somebody who's a consistent gainer with his approach play. You're going to see that be a little bit of a trend here with our value plays, because not only is this a course where it's a second shot golf course, you really have to be on top of that. It could also get extremely windy. And anytime we have windy conditions, you're always looking for those ball strikers that can flight their balls down low, that have control over those irons to succeed. So next up, we have Chez Reavie. He's only $6,600, so right in that same price range there. In terms of a course fit, not going to be popping off the board. Again, we're going to have to dive into that a little bit more. Sometimes the numbers don't tell the whole story. And in terms of recent form, Chez Reavie has looked a lot better of late than we saw towards the end of last year. Let's dive into the course fit, though. You can see the metrics aren't loving him there. It's just the 62nd ranked play. But we got to think about it a little bit more. Chez Reavie, he's one of the shorter players on the PGA Tour, somebody who's known for his long iron play. The beauty about El Camaleon is that they're going to be hitting plenty of long irons off the tee and plenty of mid irons into these greens. And if there's any part of the game, like I said, that he's good at, it is that iron play. So at this golf course, going to have more irons than he will at other places, which I really like to see. He's also not very long off the tee, so he's not going to have to deal with that little bit of de-emphasis on distance this week. He also tends to be a bad putter from time to time, and if he has any woes, they're going to be around the green. The beauty about these paspalum greens, the paspalum fairways here at El Camaleon, is that they're very easy to hit chip shots on. I have paspalum grass at the home course that I play down here in South Florida. It tends to be very light. It tends to have a little bit of a sandy underneath to it, which makes it easy to apply spin. So when you have very straight up shots, which you're going to have here at El Camaleon, a lot of the surrounds here at their greens aren't penal at all. You're not dealing with huge elevation changes. You're not dealing with many slopes or bunkers or anything like that. Almost every chip that these guys are going to have is just going to be a straightforward, what you would try at the practice range type of shot. So Chez Reavie, he's not going to be dealing with those issues like he typically has, especially at these harder golf courses. Also should be able to lean into that iron play. So at $6,600, even though the numbers don't love the course fit, I definitely think there's a little bit more to that. And in terms of the recent form, we've already been through it, has been great of late. So I like going to Chez Reavie there. That's why he's my number 3 value play on this slate. Next up, we've got Varner III at $7,400, which seems like a complete misprice to me from Draftkings. Comes in as a top 20 course fit there at number 18. Also nearly a top 10 recent form rank. Has obviously been posting top 10s left and right of late. Has made a bunch of cuts. And overall, I think this is a very good setup for Varner as well. If you consider the course fit, Varner's not one of the longer players off the tee, tends to do it with a little bit more accuracy. A little bit of a trend we've seen with some of our picks so far to here. Also somebody who's been really good with the approach play of late. He's always been a consistent gainer on our approach, but of late gaining over half a stroke per round with his approach play, which is significantly higher than his historical baseline, which you like to see. Approach play tends to be the most consistent stat from week to week, but players are able to carry and kind of continue momentum with. So seeing him stripe the ball well with the irons is always going to be encouraging. Another part about Varner's game that I like is that if he struggles, it tends to be on the greens. Again, these paspalum greens tend to be some of the easiest greens that these players see ever, to be quite honest with you, regardless of whether it's on the PGA Tour schedule or not. So as a result, I expect him to make a few more putts this week than he typically does. And if he brings that ball striking that we've seen over the last few months, he's going to have a very good week. But lastly, we have Guido Migliozzi at $6,900. He was somebody we went to last week at the Bermuda Championship, obviously made the cut. Didn't end up finishing in the top 5 or anything like that, but had a very solid week. At $6,900, it does not make sense at all to me. This guy should be in the $8,000 range. From all the metrics we have from him on the PGA Tour, immaculate on approach, immaculate putting. Not the best off the tee, tends to be a little bit inaccurate. But here at El Camaleon, he's not going to have to really hit driver. He's going to be able to club down, hit irons off the tee. He's been one of the best iron players in the world since he got onto the PGA Tour in the small sample size that we have, which means that he should be hitting the ball off the tee well if he's hitting his irons. So I like the course fit there. You can see he's the 2nd ranked golfer in the field in terms of course fit. The recent form rank, the only reason he's at number 40 here is he doesn't have enough rounds to actually qualify for all of the stats. So the way I do my recent form rank, I usually do it based on the last 24 rounds. run my model, that kind of thing. Guido only has 16 measured rounds in my database, which means he's only getting credit for 16 rounds by that, but he's still getting divided by the 24 rounds. So realistically, Guido is much closer to probably a top 15 recent form rank. So just keep that in mind there. Some of the times the stats need a little bit of sample size to catch up. Absolutely love Guido this week. I mean, just good course fit. Like I said, very good on his approach. That's why he's the number 2 course fit right there. And here at El Camaleon, that is by far the most important stat. We're looking at guys that can hit their irons well, keep themselves in play, but also set up enough birdie opportunities to take this thing low. I mean, the winning score here is typically between 18 and 22 under par, which means you're going to have to go out there and score. So the fact that he's a good putter, the fact that he's been so good of late, I absolutely love going to him. At $6,900, I think he's an absolute steal and somebody I'll be featured in plenty of my lineups. All for my value picks for this week's golf tournament. Go ahead and let me know down in the comments who you've got as your favorite play, priced $7,500 and below on the slate. Obviously for me, that's Guido Migliozzi. I think he's somebody who's a clear $8,000, maybe even $9,000 play in this field. He's just great on approach. I think in a year or two, we're going to be talking about this guy as a top 20 player in the world. And it's just going to seem silly that he was priced $6,000 in this field. But go ahead and let me know what you guys think down in the comments. I always love to get that debate going. Also, I really appreciate all of your support here on the channel. If you guys haven't already gotten a chance to like and subscribe to the channel, make sure you guys go ahead and do so. We're going to have even more golf content coming out. We're going to have our fades and sleepers coming out tonight. We're going to have our live stream on Wednesday evening, as we always do. It'll be at 6 p.m. Eastern time. And of course, all the NFL content and UFC content to come. So till then, guys, good luck with all of your lineups and peace.